Hello friends and viewers. You might have watched our first episode of Daily Routine for Natural Living. I had elaborated about the first half of the day, how we can maintain, what is that we have to follow so that we maintain a state of balanced health, eventually leading to good immunity, optimal immunity, so that it is not just helpful during this pandemic, even otherwise to not to get any chronic ailments. And if we are suffering from chronic ailments, unfortunately or fortunately, we can maintain those ailments within its normal ranges without much of medication. That is what the importance of having a state of good, optimal, balanced health, what we call it as homeostasis. So I had spoken about once you wake up, what we have to do, when is the exercise time, what is that ablutions time, how about our breakfast, and what we should do when we start going to our work, and during the work time, what all important factors we have to maintain to keep our health optimal. If you have not watched that video in detail, you can watch that video so that this will be a second part of the same thing to understand the rest of the day, how we should carry on. During work time, as I mentioned in the earlier episode, that we have to maintain good hydration, we have to maintain a good posture for optimal creativity and productivity in our respective jobs. Once you have done in the first half of the day, it's time for us to have lunch. Lunch is one of the most important aspects of our lives. What is the time we should have lunch? What kind of food what we should have? What all factors are important for us to take care while having lunch? This is what we'll discuss in brief today. And also subsequently, what is important, how we end our day, what time we go to our bed, and all those factors we need to discuss to make sure that we maintain our health optimally. Lunch time is always recommended somewhere around 12 to 2 p.m. because the sun is at optimal, is at the top of its functionality in your respective geographical area, and that is the time when our systems are also receptive and good enough to digest the food whatever you take in. I won't comment on what kind of foods you have to have. I would always talk about have those foods which are freshly prepared, probably from home most of the time, if not from your office as well. If the canteen is good enough and good hygienic and good ingredients are used, it's not that you should not have food from your canteen. You can definitely have. Make sure it is healthy and nutritious, and probably if possible organic. At the same time, it's very important for us to have that me time during lunch. Why it is important? If we are focused on the food what we eat, we enjoy every morsels and taste of the food to the maximum. When we chew well, when we enjoy the food well, it assimilates and digests very well and also gets absorbed. That is very nourishing for us. And at the same time, why between 12 and 2? Because the juices secreted at that point of time is maximum in the day. So that's why I would recommend lunch should be our major meal of the day, because we can digest quite well at that point of time. So that is very important for us to have a combination of all the food ingredients in terms of traditional medical sciences, all the 6 tastes, in terms of modern medical sciences, modern nutrition perspective, carbs, carbohydrates, protein, fats, and also some adequate hydration with water or any juice or any kind of ingredient which is also liquidy is important for us to have in our meal at lunch. Because it's a simple analogy. If you think, if you're using a grinder or a mixie in your home to mix all the food ingredients to make it a paste, you need to have some space in the mixie along with adequate water so that it mixes well and churns well. That's what happens in our stomach. We should also make sure that we not eat to the brim of our stomach. Instead, only 75% of our capacity is what we should eat. 20% should be always left space in our stomachs or in our GI, the first part of our GI, the stomach, so that what happens with that is there is enough space for churning, moving, mixing of acids with the food what we eat after we chew well. So those things are very important for us to make sure. a wholesome food is taken care. And after the meal, when we have a mindful eating of that, I would recommend at least 15 minutes of a break for yourself from your work. Take it easy. Do not attend any calls. Do not attend any of the work immediately. Instead, sit around, maybe a chit chat, maybe go for a stroll, very relaxed and comfortable way so that it doesn't strain you, because that will help for 15-20 minutes of digestion to be more optimal. After that, you're back to your work and you're continuing the same things what I mentioned in the earlier episode of how we have to carry on with our work. Focus, posture, hydration, all these factors we need to take care. So by the end of the day, probably evening, we are closing our work, we are returning back to home. One of the most important aspects is do not take work to home. This is very important because that's the time where you spend time with your family. That's the time where you connect with energetically, mentally, and you feel much more whole, more complete when you are with your family. All the stresses of the day are taken out and you are ready for the next day to function. Most of the time we are taking work to home and it goes on. The rush, the calls, and the traffic, when we going through the stress, it's always there. When that is one of the major reasons to have a low grade inflammation within us, which leads to a lot of chronic ailments. So shut the work at some point of time and make sure that you spend quality time with your family. Maybe watch a television show which is very humorous, or spend some time with your kids and spouse so that you play a game or help in the kitchen or do any of those activities. Our family is a big support for us mentally. So when we are strong on that aspect, it makes a big difference in our biochemicals, in our ability to fight the infections and strengthen the immunity as well. So that's why it is important for us to spend the quality time with our family. Post that, it's time for our dinner. What's the right time for our dinner? Make sure that you have minimum of 2 hours of gap between your dinner time and bedtime. And I would ideally recommend you finish your dinner by 7:30 p.m., not beyond that. Whatever work is there, try to keep within that and try to finish your dinner time by 7:30 so that you have enough time. That's also time for with your family as well. And the saying as goes, the family eats together, stays together. So in the same way, it's important that we finish our dinner time by 7:30. And all the points which I have spoken earlier during breakfast and lunch, what we have to take care about food, applies to dinner as well. But it's important during the dinner time, we keep not having to watch the TV or your iPad or a tab or a phone or anything of that kind. Focus on the food what you eat. Enjoy. Appreciate your spouse. Talk to your kids what happened through the day, and share what happened in your life also through the work with your family. At the same time, it's important for us during the dinner, we do not overeat. Generally, we have a habit that because lunch is usually in the afternoons, which is lighter, so we try to keep the dinner little heavier. So let us keep the dinner little soft, light, and much easier for us to digest. So that is very, very important. I think I'm running out of time, so I may have to make one more episode about sleep, which I'll cover it up in the next episode. Do watch our previous episode and this as well for a natural living of daily routine for optimal health. Thank you.